A new wave of refugees from the fall of Afghanistan to the Taliban are reportedly headed to Maine. The Lewiston Sun-Journal says somewhere between 50 and 100 of them with their families are due to arrive next week.
Maine has been welcoming asylum seekers for decades, and they are coming in increasing numbers. But where will they live? The state needs an estimated 20,000 units to stem a shortage in affordable housing. Tonight, we take an in-depth look at this crisis, beginning with where these new arrivals are being placed, at least for the time being. Kids gather to start another school day, full of energy and anxious chatter, a common scene everywhere. Except here, the chatter might be in 4 different languages, and the bus stop is in a hotel parking lot off busy Route 1 in South Portland. These children are some of the latest arrivals in an uptick of immigrants seeking asylum in Maine. There are more asylum seekers coming to Maine now than during the summer of 2019, when Portland opened the Expo to house nearly 450 of them. 513 asylum seekers are in temporary housing right now. The difference? These refugees are not coming in mass, but rather smaller groups and in steadily increasing numbers. In October of last year, 8 families, or 32 people, sought shelter in Portland. By October of this year, that number had risen to 45 families, comprised of 145 people. They are not coming to Maine from the same place or through one organization, but all are escaping danger in their homelands. Most are from the Democratic Republic of Congo or Angola, though lately a few Haitians are beginning to arrive. Their journeys are long and difficult. Some have been traveling for years.
I was jailed for 8 months and fleeing from jail to Angola. In Angola, I flee from Brazil, and Brazil, I came here with my family, my wife and my daughter, 4 months walking and then get into America.
Prince Pombo was part of the wave of immigrants from the Congo that landed at the Expo. 2 years later, he works for LL Bean, supporting his wife and 2 children. He teaches French in Freeport, he actually speaks 4 languages, and spends at least 2 days a week right here, interpreting for other asylum seekers arriving in this foreign, confusing land.
Yeah, it's too hard. It's too really, I know what it looks like to get some place that you're not familiar with the language and the culture, the weather and the system.
Perhaps because they heard about the quality of Portland services or that other African families had settled here, Portland officials say most of them list Portland's family shelter as their final destination. But there's a problem. There is no more room. The family shelter is full. This is just one of many hotels now serving as an overflow shelter. It, too, is constantly at capacity. Portland has contracted with 4 hotels in South Portland and others in Portland and Old Orchard Beach to house people waiting to get into shelters, be they immigrants or among a growing number of homeless transients arriving here. Once they get a spot in the shelters, they will eventually be placed in permanent housing. The hotels are paid by general assistance, which right now is being reimbursed for the hotels by FEMA as part of a special COVID program now extended through the end of March. While the hotels may not get the rates they would typically get, especially during the summer, every room is full every night. A new business model in a changing world.
But the folks we have here right now are wonderful people.
You see things that you never saw before. And we're human, we all have hearts and we all feel. I think that everybody taking a step back, looking around here, everybody's in a situation that's no one's fault, and we just have to get through and make it happen.
Michelle Sandman manages the hotel. She never imagined her work in the hospitality industry would include all that she is doing now.
We've learned how to speak other languages. Translate, we have our translators. Everybody's got their phone with the iPhone Translate. We have supplied clothing. We've contacted to get clothing, winter clothing, summer clothing, needs for the babies, diapers, bottles. We've basically contacted everybody we can to fill needs of people for what they need.
When the expo was open, all the service providers came to one place. Of course, in a pandemic, you can't house everyone together. So asylum seekers are spread out all over the state, and coordinating services has been a real challenge.
You know, they come here with nothing, nothing.
Oh, I lied. There's another one.
Here, give me that one too then.
Sandman, with the help of donations from various agencies and organizations, stocks a constant supply of free snack food in the hotel lobby. But still, she must convince these immigrants who have had so little for so long that the food will still be here tomorrow. But food is hardly the only immediate need.
A lot of these immigrants arrive here in Maine in the middle of dead winter in a blizzard with a tank top and flip-flops.
When we come back, we're going to take a look at the efforts of dedicated public servants who are rallying to meet those needs and more, and the challenges that cities are facing with the increasing numbers of asylum seekers and homeless people who are looking for shelter in Maine. Before the break, we saw how asylum seekers arriving in Portland often get here with very little, just the t-shirts and flip-flops they're wearing. One of their most immediate needs is winter clothing, which is where a group led by a firefighter comes in.
And then I have clothes now that the guys from the fire department are donating because there's a need. And
Operation Outreach to the Rescue. Firefighter paramedic Josh Probrislow is South Portland's local health officer 1 day a week. He started the program, wrote grants to pay for a trailer, built it out, and stocked it with supplies. He and his team of volunteers have been making the rounds at these hotels since last summer.
I'm doing 2 runs. I'm doing a 10:30 run and an 11:30 run. Okay, do you need to get vaccinated?
The needs are all-encompassing and constant, much like what he saw growing up on Indian reservations.
And it hurt when I couldn't help those populations. And so when I saw, hola, ¿cómo estás? When I saw that here, I felt really compelled to try and do something about it.
No husband.
In the back of the trailer, a mobile clinic where they screen for health issues.
I mean, a common one is folks that are just coming here, especially the kiddos, upset bellies, because the foods that we're offering and the foods that they have access to just don't work well with the small tummies.
In broken Spanish, which many of the asylum seekers picked up on their trek through Central America, Probrislow attempts to help them navigate a complicated system of immigration, applications, school registration, and transportation. But the lack of coordination of services from 50-plus agencies and organizations is frustrating.
Because there are so many agencies and there isn't one direct lead, that it makes that conversation difficult.
As an example, the Family Shelter Overflow is on Route 1 in South Portland. Probrislow says the grocery vouchers they are given can only be used at the Hannaford on Forest Avenue in Portland, but they have no transportation to get there.
They don't want to just be sitting here doing nothing. Talking to them, they all have skills and they all would like to work.
They are not allowed to work until the federal government grants them permission to do so. And the rooms, while a welcome respite from life on the road, are not equipped for families to live there this long. Portland says on average, families are here at the hotels for 5 months, though some have been here nearly a year.
Because they need to cook, they need like kitchen to cook their own food, things they like to eat and whatever. So they don't have this opportunity to do that right now.
It's hard to cook for a family with just a microwave and a refrigerator. At night, families as large as 7 crowd the beds, pullouts, and portable cribs. During the day, they congregate in what has become their asphalt community center, the parking lot, which is where Josh sets up shop.
What he's done is really incredible and continues to do.
Rob Kuchar works with Josh on the South Portland Fire Department and on Operation Outreach. While he's encouraged by recent efforts to increase communication among agencies, he is concerned because the grant money for Operation Outreach is running out, and those agencies will have to gear up to fill the gap.
You know, we took on a very large population of these folks, and we really didn't have the services to deal with that because there isn't a population that we've had in these numbers in our community before.
And housing, the influx of asylum seekers and homeless people coming from Portland, is impacting South Portland city services.
We would get residents who became homeless at no fault of their own, who were looking for placement and were unable to find anything because we hit capacity.
Kristen Barth runs South Portland's General Assistance.
So it was me and my staff calling every hotel from Freeport down to Sanford trying to find a placement for someone, which sometimes means a South Portland resident would end up in another municipality.
Schools are feeling the strain as the number of new students considered homeless because they live in temporary housing has skyrocketed. Police calls to 2 hotels housing mostly transient homeless people near the Maine Mall are up 300 to 1,500%, as are complaints of shoplifting, drug use, and fights. At the hotel housing asylum seekers, most of the calls are for paramedics, but those calls are up 400% since 2017. That led the South Portland city manager to issue letters to all of the hotels saying they need to figure out how to reduce the number of 911 calls or risk losing their licenses to operate. What everyone wants here is for these populations to be placed in affordable housing. But where?
We can't build it fast enough.
Dana Totman of Avesta Housing, a nonprofit affordable housing organization, says supply shortages caused by COVID have slowed construction of new affordable housing. What used to take 12 months to build now takes 18, and it costs more. The pandemic has also slowed the turnover of existing units. People are just staying put.
I've been doing this a long time, Cindy, and I've never seen the crisis this bad. I mean, we get 50 calls a day of people coming to us looking for housing, and we can help, but 1 or 2 or 3 a day. It is just incredibly sobering and challenging.
And that leaves no place to put these new arrivals.
I think there's light at the end of the tunnel. The problem is the tunnel's too long. That it's going to take several years to really increase the supply of affordable apartments.
Leaders in Portland and South Portland agree that this is not just a city or regional issue, it's a statewide issue. While federal funding is helping address the needs, the cities need help from the state in finding places for asylum seekers and homeless people to live.
It's an effect on the entire community. And hopefully we're going to continue to make a difference and make it grow and get better.
In the meantime, Josh and his team are doing all they can to meet the most pressing needs of traumatized families seeking safety in a new world.
And what they went through, and these small children, what they went through, and they may not process it now, but knowing about ACEs and things like that, how it's going to manifest later in these kiddos, it breaks my heart.
We're just trying to make a difference for them while they're here at this one stop in their journey.
Because it's about human being. We're trying to save human being.
Now, there is hope that even more federal funding will be coming to Maine, that funding earmarked for helping with the cost of housing and educating asylum seekers.
We've been talking about the affordable housing crisis in Maine for years. And this just really puts another spotlight on it. There's more and more pressure to find places for people to live, and no easy answers.
None at all. And COVID has only made matters worse.